Han Li had never fully trusted Mo Guang. He was watching the movements on the stone platform with complete concentration, wary of any unexpected move the man might make. So when he heard the word Shuha clan, his heart stirred at once. In the intelligence he had gathered earlier, the Shuha clan had appeared more than once, yet every mention had been vague and indistinct. That was not because the clan was especially secretive, nor because the Grey Lizard clan had been incompetent in gathering information, but because among all the races of the Grey Realm, the Shuha clan belonged to the highest rank of aristocratic bloodlines. A lowly race like the Grey Lizard clan was already considered bottom tier even within a single Black-Tooth domain, let alone the entire Grey Realm. The gulf in status between them and the Shuha clan was simply too vast, and so the scraps of information they could obtain were pitifully few. All Han Li knew was that the Shuha clan was the ruling family of the Xiaohao domain, and that their forces belonged to the side of the Samsara domain, enemies of the native Grey Realm powers to which the Nisi Tua domain belonged. Beyond that, he knew nothing more of the Shuha clan. He had never imagined that the Grey Immortal Corpse Mo Guang had taken over had once belonged to a member of that very race. Although things had already gone awry on the stone platform, the green-skinned ape had been too terrified to stop the army, and so the bloody slaughter by the shores of Lake Bowling continued unabated. Quite a few Grey Lizard clansmen had been caught up in it, and had already fallen beneath enemy blades. Mo Guang stopped them at once, Han Li transmitted. But on the stone platform, Mo Guang did not act immediately after hearing this. Instead, he turned and glanced in Han Li's direction. That single movement made everyone else on the platform suspicious. They all looked up this way. Han Li cursed inwardly, quickly concealed his aura, and pretended to have fainted. Within him, the heavenly devil contract he had signed with Mo Guang had already begun to manifest within his sea of consciousness. Fortunately, Mo Guang merely glanced once and made no unusual move. He turned back toward the green-skinned ape, put away his black folding fan, interlaced his fingers, flexed his wrists, then grinned and bared a row of perfectly white teeth. As the black-clad girl watched the handsome young man before her, every trace of fear in her heart vanished. His smile sent ripples spreading across the still lake of her mind. The green-skinned ape felt the exact opposite. To him, the man's smile was horrifying beyond measure. Those gleaming white teeth looked as though they meant to suck his blood and devour his flesh. A chill swept through his entire body, as if he had fallen into an ice pit. Clenching his teeth, he tightened his grip on the black conch shell in his hand, hoping that by using the secret treasure bestowed upon him by the Lord himself, he might win a sliver of survival. But no sooner had the thought arisen than a voice, like the whisper of a demon, drifted into his ear. "What are you plotting?" At some point, Mo Guang's body had already transformed into a mass of gray mist that had wound around him like a serpent. Only his head remained in human form, hovering by the ape's cheek. The ape shrieked, his soul nearly flying out of his body. The moment he opened his mouth, Mo Guang dissolved completely into strands of gray mist and poured into him through his 7 orifices: eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Agony twisted the ape's face. He dropped both the spiked club and the black conch shell, clawed at his own throat, staggered backward, and after only a few steps fell flat on his back with a heavy crash. Only after his body ceased moving altogether did tendrils of gray mist begin to seep back out from his 7 orifices, gathering again into human form and becoming once more that elegant young gentleman. Only when he began fanning himself did he let out a satisfied belch, which somewhat ruined the effect. Miao Xiao and the others stared at the bizarre scene in utter shock, mouths slightly open, unable to speak for a long while. Mo Guang bent down, picked up the black conch shell and studied it for a moment. Then his body seemed to pause briefly before dense streams of baleful qi poured from his palm, wrapping around it and refining it. A moment later, he held the conch shell in one hand and flicked it lightly with a finger. A wave of black light spread outward at once, sweeping in all directions and stirring faint ripples across the surface of Lake Bowling. The moment the people of the Black-Tooth domain were touched by the radiance, they all felt their minds clear. That previous sensation of confusion and weakness vanished. One after another they rose to their feet and threw themselves into battle with the forces of the Nisi Tua domain. Han Li and Shi Chuankong also stood up with the tide, but instead of joining the fighting, they made their way toward the stone platform. On the platform, Mu Qiu saw the green-skinned ape killed with such ease, and his face went deathly pale. The fish gills by his cheeks flared repeatedly. Turning sharply, he tried to flee toward Lake Bowling. But before he could move, the chief of the Thornbone clan had already leapt forward and blocked his way. At the same time, a tall gray-skinned woman with pointed ears and Miao Kuei sprang out from the sides, hemming him in. "Kill him," Miao Xiu ordered, her eyes entirely without emotion. The three attacked at once, without the slightest hesitation. Mountain Ghost Clan, Wind Weasel Clan, Graysickle Clan. Take command of your people and begin the counterattack immediately. Blue Carp Clan, Mud Ox Clan, Earth Pellet Clan. Move around both flanks of Lake Bowling and pursue them. We may not have the numbers to cut them off completely, so kill as many as you can. Miao Zong, you and your men will take charge of the remaining divisions, strike at the enemy chieftains, and hunt down any scattered troops who flee. A stream of orders issued rapidly from Miao Xiu's lips. The chiefs of the various races of the Black-Tooth domain received their commands one after another and flew off from the platform to organize their surviving clansmen in a counterattack against the army of the Nisi Tua domain. When the armies of the Nisi Tua domain saw their commander slain, their morale immediately collapsed. The races of the Black-Tooth domain, burning with vengeance, pursued them with savage ferocity and drove them all the way back into Lake Bowling. After making that one move, Mo Guang no longer continued killing. He strolled leisurely to the edge of the platform, lightly fanning himself with the black fan in his hand, watching the melee below with obvious amusement and a faint smile at his lips. Han Li and Shi Chuankong wove through the chaos of clashing blades and flashing weapons and landed on the platform. Shi Chuankong's expression did not change much as he looked at Mo Guang, but inwardly it was as though storm waves were pounding against a shore. When his gaze shifted to Han Li, it grew deeper still. "Fellow Taoist Li, this person is?" he asked in a low voice after hesitating again and again. "You may address him as fellow Taoist Mo Guang. His identity is somewhat special. You can think of him as a contractual ally of mine. For certain reasons he could not reveal himself before, but from now on that will not be a problem," Han Li explained briefly. Mo Guang said nothing, merely smiling as he nodded to Shi Chuankong. The latter returned the gesture with a greeting, his expression complicated. "I once saw in some records of the Grey Lizard clan that the Shuha clan has 3 great surnames: Tusu, Dongling and Jiang. From now on you should call yourself Jianggu. The 2 of us will be your retainers," Han Li transmitted. "I am Shi Chuankong," Shi Chuankong said after the briefest hesitation, cupping his fists. Mo Guang nodded as acknowledgement, then smacked his lips and said, "Jianggu is not a very pleasing name. It sounds too much like someone about to pass into antiquity." Han Li frowned slightly and was about to speak when Miao Xiu, dressed in black, came over. She stopped several paces away and bowed respectfully. "This junior is Miao Xiu, daughter of the chieftain of the San Miao clan of the Black-Tooth domain. May I ask senior's honored name?" Mo Guang turned at her words, smiling as his gaze roamed openly over the black-clad girl from head to toe. He was just about to speak when Han Li's voice suddenly rang in his mind. "Fellow Taoist Mo Guang, we are in another world. Please mind your words and conduct." "Hehe. So you are the young mistress of the San Miao clan. My name is Jianggu and these 2 are my retainers Li Han and Shi Chuankong," Mo Guang said after the slightest pause. Han Li and Shi Chuankong immediately stepped forward and bowed to Miao Xiu. "Today, if not for senior's intervention, the various races of our Black-Tooth domain would surely have suffered devastating losses at the hands of the Nisi Tua army," Miao Xiu said, not daring to neglect courtesy, and returned the bow. "You overstate things, Miss Miao. I merely happened to be passing through your Black-Tooth domain, and had no intention of getting involved. Unfortunately, that green-skinned monkey was simply too irritating," Mo Guang said casually, swaying his fan. "The sudden assault by the various races of the Nisi Tua domain already amounts to open war against our Black-Tooth domain. I must return to my clan at once and report everything to my father. As the savior of our Black-Tooth domain, senior must at least give us the chance to show proper hospitality," Miao Xiu said solemnly. Mo Guang did not answer immediately. He pretended to ponder, but in truth he was asking Han Li by voice transmission how he should reply. "It is fine. We do not have a fixed destination at the moment. Going somewhere stable to settle for a while is not a bad idea. And there should be more intelligence there that we need, Han Li replied. Since Miss Miao invites us with such sincerity, it would be rude to refuse your kindness. We will trouble you for a time. However, I do not wish to draw attention to myself on this journey, so I ask that you keep my whereabouts strictly confidential. It would be best not even to mention me to your father for the time being, Mo Guang said, turning to Miao Xiu with a deliberately serious look. Rest assured, senior. Before we arrive at Yoha City, I will not reveal a single word. Once we get there, I will of course report truthfully to my father, and I will also request that he keep your presence secret, Miao Xiu answered at once, delighted. Excellent, Mo Guang said with a nod. Then allow this junior to first deal with the aftermath here before arranging the journey to Yoha City. Miao Xiu cupped her hands toward Mo Guang and Han Li. Mo Guang said nothing more, merely waved a hand to indicate she might go. After Miao Xiu left, Mo Guang looked down at the bloody killing field below the platform, drew in a deep breath through empty air, and wore an expression of profound satisfaction. Baleful qi was thick and full everywhere. Fellow Taoist Li, are we not taking too great a risk by venturing this deep into the capital of a Grey Realm Lord? Shi Chuankong asked, glancing at the departing Miao Xiu with concern in his eyes. It will be all right. With fellow Taoist Mo Guang and his identity as a member of the Shuhe clan, the San Miao clan will neither dare nor wish to probe us too closely. What matters is that we ourselves must be extremely careful not to expose any flaw, Han Li said slowly. Shi Chuankong said nothing more, though the worry in his eyes did not diminish in the least. Several days later, Miao Xiu came quietly to the Grey Lizard encampment with only a few trusted members of the San Miao clan and respectfully invited Han Li and the others to return with them to Yoha City. Han Li and the others had long since prepared for this. After bidding Shi Yan and the others farewell, they headed toward the San Miao encampment. Watching the immortal guests depart, the old chief of the Grey Lizard clan could not help feeling a certain disappointment. From Miao Xiu and the others, he had already learned that the two men who had been traveling with them before, as well as the man who had appeared later, were all of extraordinarily exalted status. He could not help thinking that if he had only done a little better, perhaps he might have forged a heaven-sent bond. He was still regretting this in secret when he saw Miao Kuei hurrying back toward him and stopping before him with a respectful bow. I would not dare, Shi Yan said, overwhelmed, returning the gesture at once. My earlier offense toward Chief Shi Yan was discourteous, and I ask your forgiveness. At this assembly, the Grey Lizard clan rendered immense service. The young lady has ordered us to present 2,000 gray crystals as thanks. Once we return, we will also request that the Lord assign a portion of the Water Tiger clan's territory to your Grey Lizard clan, Miao Kuei said. Shi Yan stood stunned for a moment. Then his eyes reddened, and he moved as though to kneel in gratitude. Chief Shi Yan, there is no need for that. Those three honored guests spoke highly of you. You helped our Black-Tooth domain forge a favorable connection, and the Grey Lizard clan deserves this reward, Miao Kuei said quickly, catching him by the arm before he could kneel. Thank you, Immortal. Thank you, young lady. Thank you, Envoy Miao, Shi Yan said again and again, bowing repeatedly. Meanwhile, Han Li and the other two had followed Miao Xiu to the other side of the lakeshore, where an enormous three-deck tower ship lay moored. Its entire body was black as ink. The corners of its roofs jutted outward and were lined with sharp projections, and its surface was carved with intricate and peculiar patterns. Though devoid of brilliant color, it still gave an impression of extravagant luxury. In front of the ship crouched three enormous beasts over 100 feet high. Their bodies resembled warhorses, yet their cheeks bore white external bone armor and a single spiraled horn. On their backs were four huge gray-black fleshy wings folded tightly to their sides. This armored horse tower ship can travel above the clouds. It may not be as fast as your flying treasures, but it is at least steady. I have already had the guest rooms on the third floor cleared out. You may stay there without concern, Miao Xiu said to Mo Guang as they boarded the ship. Many thanks, Mo Guang replied with a gentle smile, nodding to her. As she led the three men toward the third floor, Miao Xiu exchanged a few casual words with Mo Guang. Han Li and Shi Chuankong kept their heads lowered, standing silently at his sides like obedient retainers, saying nothing. While speaking with Mo Guang, Miao Xiu's gaze drifted over Han Li from time to time, as if with some suspicion. Han Li pretended not to notice and ignored it completely. Once they reached the third level, the three chose separate guest rooms. After Miao Xiu took her leave, she gave the order for the ship to depart. The three massive gray-winged armored horses lit with gray radiance in their eyes. They thundered forward on four hooves, dragging the huge tower ship 1,000 yards in a rush. Then they spread their enormous gray wings and beat them fiercely, generating powerful white currents of air beneath them. Driven by the gale, the horses and tower ship together soared into the sky and plunged into the immensely thick cloud layer. Han Li stood in his room looking out through the window, but saw only black mist everywhere and dense baleful qi that made vision impossible. Frowning, he swept a hand through the air and laid a layer of blue light over the windows, blocking the rolling baleful qi outside. To avoid arousing suspicion among the Sanmiao clan, Han Li did not set up any restrictive formations with strong fluctuations of spiritual power in his room. He arranged only a few simple formations to conceal his aura. By the time he had finished, the armored horse tower ship seemed to have finally broken through the thick layer of baleful clouds and risen above them. The black mist outside vanished, and the view suddenly widened. Han Li withdrew the shield he had placed over the window and looked out. Without the cover of the baleful clouds, the sky above was still a dim gray. Three round suns hung high in the heavens emitting white light. Though not cold, they gave off very little warmth, creating a deeply uncomfortable feeling. Still, the baleful qi above the clouds was much thinner, and Han Li found it considerably easier to endure than the conditions on the ground. After sitting quietly for a while, he suddenly heard Daoist Xie's voice in the lake of his mind. "Fellow Daoist Han, I have finished inventorying the storage artifacts you asked me to sort through earlier. Would you like to take a look?" "Of course," Han Li said with a smile. With a wave of his hand, silver light flashed on 2 fingers of his right hand, and a silver gate of light opened a short distance before him. Daoist Xie stepped out from before the bamboo pavilion and entered the guest room. The two sat at the round table in the room. Han Li flipped out a jug of 100 flowers brew. Since arriving in the Grey Realm, he had seldom had a moment of leisure. Only now did he finally feel in the mood to pour himself a few cups and exchange a few words with Daoist Xie. "I finished counting the contents of those storage artifacts the other day. There are 15,317 top-grade spirit stones, 58,313 Immortal Origin Stones, and 321 mid-grade Immortal Origin Stones. They are all here," Daoist Xie said, taking out a white storage bracelet and setting it on the table. These storage artifacts had come almost entirely from the ruins of the True Word Gate, from the Heavenly Court soldiers and disciples of the sect. Most of them had cultivation ranging from early True Immortal to late Golden Immortal. They made little use of top-grade spirit stones, and very few possessed mid-grade Immortal Origin Stones. Naturally, what they used most were ordinary Immortal Origin Stones. Han Li did not take the bracelet right away. He merely sipped the 100 flowers brew and waited quietly for Daoist Xie to continue. "This contains various materials for formations. There are all sorts of formation discs and flags, as well as some rather bulky formation stones and spirit pattern pillars. I selected a portion and buried them around the bamboo pavilion near the spirit herb garden, turning that place into another principal formation node besides the pondside bamboo pavilion. However, the structure of the flower branch grotto heaven is already extremely intricate, so the room for this node to have much effect is limited," Daoist Xie continued. "Excellent. Many thanks for your efforts, fellow Daoist Xie," Han Li said with a smile and a nod. "This contains immortal artifacts and treasures of many attributes. There are over 200 immortal artifacts, but only one is of recognized grade, a thunder-attributed saber. I hope fellow Daoist Han can lend it to me for a time. No, I hope fellow Daoist Han can sell it to me. As for the price, you may name it and I will repay it later," Daoist Xie went on. As he spoke, he placed another black storage bracelet on the table and produced a long, narrow black saber. Han Li glanced over it and saw spirit patterns densely covering the blade. Set from top to bottom were 7 purple beads the size of longan fruit, within which flickered patterns of lightning. It was unmistakably an 8th grade immortal artifact. Seeing Han Li remain silent, Taoist Xie let light flash in his palm and sent a current into the saber. The 7 beads on the blade suddenly flared with purple light, and strands of purple-gold lightning coiled outward, releasing intense fluctuations. Han Li's eyes twitched. He immediately suppressed the fluctuations and signaled Taoist Xie to put it away. I will not lend or sell this item to you. The instant Han Li spoke, disappointment flickered in Taoist Xie's eyes, but he quickly returned to normal and began lowering the saber toward the table. Before he could set it down, however, Han Li reached out a hand and stopped him. I can give this saber to you, but there are some things I hope you will tell me truthfully, Han Li said, looking at Taoist Xie. A trace of hesitation crossed Taoist Xie's eyes. His gaze lingered on the saber for a long while before he finally nodded. Have you already recovered most of your memories? Han Li asked. There are indeed many more memories in my mind, but most of them are still disordered. I have been trying to sort them out, but for now I have made no progress. If that is what you wish to ask about, I truly cannot answer, Taoist Xie said, shaking his head. What exactly is the wish your master wanted me to fulfill? Han Li continued, frowning faintly. Fellow Taoist Han, it is not that I am deliberately hiding it. The memories I recovered earlier did not state the matter clearly. What I can be sure of is only that it will not be easy, Taoist Xie said with a bitter smile. That answer is hardly better than no answer at all. Fine. Keep the saber, Han Li said helplessly. After a brief hesitation, Taoist Xie put the saber away and said, the blade bears the inscription Duanxiao, which should be its name. Judging by its forging method and the patterns on it, it likely shares the same origin as the earlier blade Zhanting, only it seems older and of even higher quality. Both are equally precious. I will surely repay this kindness one day. Han Li said nothing, merely waved a hand and put away the storage bracelet. I have gathered all the pills and spirit herbs taken from those people into this storage ring. There are quite a few good things inside, but I do not recognize many of them, so I leave them for you to inspect yourself, Taoist Xie said after a pause. Han Li nodded, picked up the storage ring, refined it slightly, and examined it carefully. The moment he did, his eyebrows rose and delight appeared on his face. Leaving aside the many healing and cultivation pills, there were also quite a few rare immortal herbs and spirit grasses, some of them so uncommon that even he could not identify them. Among them all, however, what delighted him most were more than 10 fist-sized pieces of Xuanji crystal. This was a crucial ingredient for refining susha pills. Earlier, he had purchased a great quantity of kulu flowers at the Temuda assembly, and had been worrying over the lack of Xuanji crystal. Now that he had both main ingredients, he could refine another batch of susha pills. In the Grey Realm, if the decline calamity of baleful qi ever turned back against him, it would be life-threatening. Still, this matter could not be rushed. He would have to wait until they reached a safer place before attempting the refinement. After putting away the storage ring, Han Li asked Taoist Xie about the condition of the grotto heaven. He learned that everything in the spirit herb garden was fine, that the batch of bean soldiers in the planting fields was nearly mature, while the root of the two-life tree still showed no sign of life despite repeated watering with spirit liquid. As for the essence flame firebird, it remained wrapped inside that silver sphere covered with crimson markings, with no sign of awakening. Han Li was not overly worried. He had already witnessed the power of the 7-color fire dansan that day. Even if the essence flame firebird remained asleep for 10 or 20 years, he would not find it surprising. After their conversation, Taoist Xie did not linger and returned to the flower branch grotto heaven. Han Li drank alone for a few more cups, then frowned slightly as he put away the wine set, rose and opened the door to his room. At the very end of the third deck, in one of the guest chambers, Mo Guang, who had been seated cross-legged in meditation, suddenly raised his brows and spoke. Fellow Taoist Li, I have been expecting you for some time. Come in. The door opened inward with a soft creak, and Han Li stepped inside. You knew I was coming? He asked, closing the door behind him and casually laying down a barrier formation. Han Li swept his gaze over the room and found that it was much larger than his own, with furnishings far more refined. On the table sat a plate of black fruit covered in fiery patterns. I have only just arrived here and do not know the customs. Fellow Taoist Han ought to give me a few pointers and teach me some rules for conduct, Mo Guang said with a laugh, standing up and biting into one of the fruits. Purple-black juice spilled from his lips, and threads of pure black baleful qi immediately rose from it. Han Li looked at that handsome face he had conjured and unconsciously knit his brows. Fellow Taoist Mo Guang has lived through who knows how many ages. In years, experience and knowledge you far surpass me. And with the heavenly devil contract linking us, you naturally do not need me to instruct you how to conduct yourself. I came here because there is something else I wish to ask, Han Li said in an apparently casual tone. Oh? Something else? Mo Guang asked, lifting a brow in mild surprise. You saw the gray immortal corpse in the bamboo pavilion. This white bone bracelet was taken from him. It appears to be a storage artifact meant specifically for gray immortals. I tried refining it with immortal spiritual power but failed. I also tried activating it by drawing on baleful qi, but got nowhere, Han Li said, taking out a white bone bracelet and tossing it over. Mo Guang caught it, examined it carefully and then smiled. It is indeed a storage artifact. After speaking, he murmured a few words under his breath. Dense baleful qi surged from his palm, enveloping the bracelet as he began refining it. A moment later, the qi in his hand dispersed, revealing the bracelet once more. With a wave of his hand, a sheet of gray light poured out and scattered across the floor. A small heap of gray crystals clattered onto the ground, along with several gray immortal weapons and a pile of strange gray realm materials. Han Li glanced over them briefly, then waved a hand and took away half the pile of gray crystals into his storage bracelet, leaving everything else on the floor. What is this? Mo Guang asked in puzzlement. You may keep these, fellow Taoist Mo Guang. It would hardly do for a high-ranking cultivator of the Shuha clan to have no storage artifact at all, Han Li said indifferently. With that, he offered a brief farewell, removed all the restrictions he had set, and left. Left alone in the room, Mo Guang sat there in a moment of stunned silence before murmuring to himself, the heavenly devil contract, the white bone bracelet. Fellow Taoist Han, you really are using both favor and pressure on me. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years passed. The armored horse tower ship, which had been flying endlessly above the baleful clouds all this time, finally began to descend, dropping back down beneath the cloud layer. They had arrived at Yoha City. Han Li and the others stood on the deck of the tower ship together with the members of the Sanmiao clan and looked down. Across a vast plain, stretching over several thousand li, gray-white stone forts of every size were scattered everywhere, their domed roofs and pointed towers rising among more than a dozen black rivers that ran through them. The stone forts stood relatively close together, with no city walls enclosing them, making the place look like a concentrated settlement formed from countless forts. At the very center of the settlement lay a huge plaza and a dense cluster of stone buildings. Before long, the tower ship descended into the plaza, and Han Li and the others flew down from it. It is still early. Senior, would you care to come with me to meet my father first? After that I can arrange accommodations for you, Miao Xiu said, walking ahead and leading the way as she addressed Mo Guang. A guest follows the host's convenience. We shall do as Miss Miao suggests, Mo Guang replied with a charming smile. Han Li and Shi Chuankong followed behind him like proper retainers. Even their curious glances at the surroundings were restrained. After crossing the plaza and walking through one richly ornamented corridor after another, the group arrived before an enormous stone fortress palace approached by more than a dozen steps. An old man in gray robes came toward them, his face lighting up with delight as he bowed to Miao Xiu. Young lady, you have returned. Uncle Zhong, where is my father right now? Miao Xiu asked with a smile, returning the bow. The old man glanced at Han Li and the others, shifted slightly aside, and pointed toward the palace behind him. The Lord is receiving guests in the Miaoying Hall at the moment. I fear he may not be able to see you right away. I see. Uncle Zhong, the people behind me are members of the Shuha clan. They once saved my life. Could you please announce them and see whether they might be received first? Miao Xiu asked after a slight hesitation. So these are the distinguished guests of the Shuha clan? Young lady, wait here a moment. I shall report at once, the gray-robed elder said. His gaze turned instantly reverent, and he hurried toward the hall. A short while later, he came trotting back and said to Miao Xiu, the Lord invites all the honored guests into the hall for conversation. Delight flashed in Miao Xiu's eyes. She immediately led Han Li and the others up the steps to the palace entrance. Just as they were about to enter, the great doors suddenly opened. A young man of the San Miao clan emerged, escorting a tall, erect middle-aged man with a stern face. His sword-like brows swept upward toward his temples, and his tiger-like eyes carried natural authority even without anger. The baleful qi around him was astonishingly dense. Han Li's pupils contracted at the sight, and inwardly he exclaimed, "It is actually him?" Though the man now wore a black robe and his hair had turned gray-black, Han Li was certain beyond doubt that this was none other than Bai Liyan, the first Dao Lord of the Candle Dragon Dao. They had crossed paths only once, briefly, during the struggle for the Tai pill at the Nethercold Immortal Manor. After that, they had never met again. Han Li had never imagined that Bai Liyan, too, had already come to the Grey Realm. Han Li's thoughts churned like lightning in his mind, but by then he had already passed by Bai Liyan. The latter lowered his gaze slightly and did not so much as glance at him, evidently failing to recognize what Han Li now looked like. Then the old servant had already pushed open the hall doors and led them inside. The instant Han Li entered, he saw a middle-aged man seated at the head of the hall, with sharp brows and bright eyes, his sideburns flying upward. There was perhaps 30% resemblance between his features and Miao Xiu's, though the likeness in the lips was nearly total. Han Li guessed at once that this must be Miao Gao, Lord of the Black Tooth Domain. Several figures in black feathered robes stood nearby, both men and women. They all seemed fairly advanced in age, with frost at their temples, and when they looked at Miao Xiu their eyes were full of affectionate smiles. "Miao Xiu greets father and the honored clan elders," Miao Xiu said, bowing deeply. "Zhanggu of the Shuha clan greets Lord Miao Gao," Mo Guang said, stepping forward and laying a fist lightly against his shoulder in salute. "Greetings, Lord Miao Gao," Han Li and Shi Chuankong said, bowing as Miao Xiu had. Miao Gao had already risen from his chair. He returned the salute in the same manner, fist against shoulder twice, and said, "A gray-eyed hawk already returned ahead of time and informed us of what happened by Lake Bolang. Many thanks, Brother Jiang, for rescuing the various races of our Black Tooth Domain and my daughter Miao Xiu. Though our Black Tooth Domain is but a small state, we still understand the principle of repaying kindness. We have therefore prepared a modest gift, and I hope Brother Jiang will not disdain it." The moment he finished speaking, a white-haired elder by his side stepped forward and respectfully offered up a white bone ring with both hands. "Then I shall accept without further ceremony," Mo Guang said with a smile, taking it directly and without the slightest hesitation. "Why has Brother Jiang traveled all the way from the Xiaohao domain to our Black Tooth domain? If there is anything you require, please speak freely. My San Miao clan will certainly do its utmost to assist," Miao Gao asked after Mo Guang accepted the ring. Mo Guang did not answer immediately. After a pause he said, "My retainers and I were traveling abroad when we encountered an immensely powerful great demon. It pursued us all the way to the June grasslands, and afterward we ended up staying among the Grey Lizard clan. They told us the Temuda assembly was about to be held, so we went to join the fun." "I see. Then it seems Brother Jiang and our people are truly connected by fate. By the way, what kind of great demon were you pursuing? Perhaps we might be able to help," Miao Gao asked, his brows lifting slightly. "That creature has already fled without a trace. Otherwise we would not have taken shelter with the Grey Lizard clan. Since things have come to this, there is no need to mind it too much. We may as well continue the unfinished journey," Mo Guang said with a careless smile. "If it is a journey of experience, then do stay in our Yoha city for a while. It would allow us to show proper hospitality," Miao Gao said with a smile of his own. "Then we shall trouble you," Mo Guang replied at once. "Xiu, take the honored guests to settle in first. Afterward, come directly back to the inner residence," Miao Gao said, turning to Miao Xiu. "Yes, father." After receiving the order, Miao Xiu led Mo Guang, Han Li, and Shi Chuankong out of the hall and toward a cluster of stone buildings behind it. All around the structures grew a strange kind of flower, enormous blossoms with no leaves, their surfaces wreathed in threads of black baleful qi. The farther inward they went among the buildings, the denser those flowers became. Han Li was not surprised. In the Grey Realm, baleful qi was like the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The denser it was, the more favorable a place was for cultivation. As honored guests, They were naturally being housed in the place richest in baleful qi. Sure enough, when they reached the innermost stone fortress palace in the complex, Miao Xiu stopped. This is the residence our San Miao clan uses for its most distinguished guests. Please stay here at ease. If you need anything, simply let me know, Miao Xiu said with a smile. Many thanks, Mo Guang replied, equally smiling. Miao Xiu still had to return to see her father, so after a brief farewell she departed in haste. Once Han Li and the others entered the palace, they each selected a room. Shi Chuankong returned to his own chamber first. Mo Guang, however, followed Han Li into Han Li's room. Just as Han Li and Mo Guang reached the door of the room, Han Li suddenly halted, his body giving a violent shudder. What's wrong, fellow Taoist Han? Mo Guang asked at once, startled by the sight. Han Li did not answer. A layer of gray light abruptly surfaced in his eyes, and the muscles in his face began to twitch, making him look as though he were in extreme pain. Then his whole body started trembling, and his face turned deathly pale in an instant. For some unknown reason, the baleful qi within his immortal apertures had suddenly erupted, rolling and surging out of control. Moments later, streams of pitch-black baleful qi burst forth from his body, writhing like the hands of a demon, while the temperature of the surrounding space plunged sharply. Get inside first, Mo Guang said, his gaze flickering. Han Li still did not reply. He shoved the door open and strode into the room, his thoughts racing. Could it be that the baleful decay is flaring up again? At a time like this of all times, several hundred years had already passed since the last outbreak of his baleful decay. The delaying effect of the threads of time had long since worn off, so in a sense this was not strange. As the thought flashed through his mind, both of his hands moved rapidly. Amid sharp whistling sounds, several hundred array flags shot out and landed throughout the room, instantly spreading multiple layers of thick restraints that sealed the entire chamber. Seeing this, Mo Guang raised a hand, releasing a streak of black light from his palm. Behind Han Li's restrictions, another black barrier unfolded. Black mist swirled across that barrier, and within it one could vaguely make out black chains crossing one another. A dense wave of baleful qi rippled from the black net, mixed with faint traces of law power. Whatever sort of restraint it was, it immediately blocked 80% of the raging baleful qi fluctuations. Working together, the two of them managed to seal off all of the escaping baleful qi. Even so, though they had reacted quickly, the eruption had come too suddenly, and a small amount still leaked out. At the same time, the baleful qi throughout heaven and earth in the surrounding area was instantly drawn in and began rushing frantically toward the stone fortress palace. The scale of it was so immense that it rivaled the upheaval of worldly spirit qi that accompanied a breakthrough in the immortal realm. At that moment, Miao Xiu was on her way back to her inner residence. She suddenly lifted her head and turned to glance toward the palace, a trace of astonishment flashing through her beautiful eyes. What powerful baleful qi fluctuations! As expected of a member of the Shuhe clan, born with extraordinary talent for cultivation, Miao Xiu murmured to herself, strange light flickering in her eyes as if she were calculating something. In Shi Chuankong's room, he was seated cross-legged on the bed with his eyes closed. Suspended above his head was that silver pipa, releasing wave after wave of silver light as though he were refining the treasure. His eyes opened suddenly, and he glanced in the direction of the doorway before closing them again. In Han Li's room, golden lightning flashed, and Taoist Xie appeared. Fellow Taoist Mo Guang, fellow Taoist Xie, I'll have to trouble you both to guard me, Han Li said. He immediately sat down cross-legged and began circulating his cultivation art. In the next instant, dazzling golden light erupted from his body, and waves of time law power surged forth. Mo Guang and Taoist Xie exchanged a glance, then each moved to a corner of the room and sat down cross-legged. Just as Han Li began using the power of time law to envelop all of his immortal apertures, he suddenly noticed something amiss. Only the immortal apertures that had been invaded by baleful qi were in turmoil. The remaining pure apertures showed no abnormalities at all. It seemed different from the last time the baleful decay had erupted. Could it be that this isn't the baleful decay? Then could it be? Han Li thought to himself, his brows, which had just relaxed, knitting together again. If the baleful decay were erupting now, He was confident he could suppress it again, but it would take time. Worse, he was currently in the gray realm. If anyone discovered that he was undergoing the baleful decay, his identity would be exposed at once and catastrophe would follow. His thoughts raced. Immortal spiritual power and time law power wrapped around the surging baleful chi within him and pressed down on it fiercely. But no matter how he tried to suppress it, the baleful chi inside his immortal aperture seemed to have been stimulated by something, and it churned ever more violently. Han Li only felt the agitation in his heart growing stronger and stronger. For some reason, his sea of consciousness began to heave violently, and an uncontrollable impulse surged up from the depths of his mind. His eyes were now suffused with blood-red light, and the vicious baleful aura radiating from him grew denser and denser. Not only that, the baleful chi in the surrounding void seemed to have been attracted as well. It began rapidly converging toward him and merging into the baleful chi inside his immortal apertures. The pitch-black baleful chi within those apertures increased swiftly, and its churning became even more violent. Han Li suddenly bit the tip of his tongue, using his remaining rationality to force down the impulse in his heart. Then both his hands moved at once. The nearby void shimmered, and a white door of light emerged. His figure swayed, and in a flash he vanished into the light gate, entering the flower branch grotto heaven. The moment he entered the flower branch space, the onrushing baleful chi was carried in with him. The baleful chi within the room immediately thinned, and the baleful chi inside Han Li's immortal apertures finally stopped increasing. A trace of relief appeared on Han Li's face. He sat down cross-legged once more, flipped a hand and took out a pitch-black pill. It was none other than a purging Sha pill. Without the slightest hesitation, he swallowed it, then began circulating his cultivation art with all his strength to refine the medicine. The pill melted quickly. Two vast currents of energy, one hot and one cold, intertwined and surged forth, coursing through every limb and bone in his body. All of Han Li's pores involuntarily opened, and streams of dense black baleful chi poured out from every part of him, drifting into the surroundings. Strange. When did so much baleful chi accumulate in my body again? Seeing the endless black baleful chi streaming out, Han Li was startled. The last time, with the aid of 3 purging Sha pills, although he had not eliminated the baleful chi in his immortal apertures, he had greatly expelled the baleful chi from the rest of his body. How had such a dense concentration formed again in so short a time? Could it be because, after entering the gray realm, I remained in an environment filled with baleful chi for too long and was affected by it? Han Li's gaze flickered, but he quickly shook his head and stopped letting his mind wander, focusing fully on refining the medicinal power. At that very moment, a black figure flashed, and Emo Guang appeared behind him. He muttered an incantation and raised both hands. 2 streaks of black light shot from his palms, swiftly merging into one and forming a black pillar of light as thick as a water vat. Ripples of black light rolled across the pillar, and within it there vaguely took shape the phantom of a gigantic beast, somewhere between a tiger and a lion. It opened its maw and inhaled sharply. The baleful chi emanating from Han Li immediately flew into the mouth of the beast phantom in a rolling torrent. Not only that, the devouring power emitted by the beast phantom also enveloped Han Li's entire body, causing the baleful chi inside him to leak out much faster. Seeing this, Han Li's heart stirred, and he continued circulating his cultivation art to refine the medicinal power. With the aid of the purging Sha pill and Emo Guang's assistance, the baleful chi within Han Li's body poured out more and more quickly. Even the baleful chi roiling inside his immortal apertures seemed to find an outlet and slowly calmed down. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 days passed. The baleful chi surging from Han Li gradually dwindled from much to little, until at last it disappeared entirely. He slowly opened his eyes. The blood-red glow in them had vanished, and clarity had returned. Not far behind him, Emo Guang formed a hand seal and dispersed the black pillar of light. Han Li focused inward and examined his condition. The baleful chi within his immortal apertures had stopped rioting and returned to calm. However, not only had the baleful chi inside those apertures not decreased in the slightest, it had actually increased somewhat from before because of the external baleful chi it had absorbed during the earlier upheaval. At this sight, Han Li could not help but sigh inwardly. That black baleful chi revolved slowly within his immortal apertures like a haunting ghost that would not leave. always lurking within his body, and there was no knowing when it might erupt again. Fellow Taoist Mo Guang, many thanks for helping me this time, Hanli said as he turned around and nodded. It was nothing worth mentioning, Mo Guang replied with a wave of his hand. Fellow Taoist Mo Guang, you are now in the body of a gray immortal, and after all this time adapting to it, you must have gained some understanding of the mysteries of baleful qi. During these past 2 days while helping me pacify my baleful qi, did you happen to notice anything? Why did the baleful qi in my immortal apertures suddenly erupt like this? Hanli asked after a moment's thought. You overestimate me, fellow Taoist Han, Mo Guang said slowly. Though I have temporarily occupied this body and gained some insight into the path of baleful qi after this period of contemplation, I am still far from having truly comprehended it. Even so, after observing you these past 2 days, I did indeed notice a few clues. Oh? What did you find? Speak freely, Hanli said, one brow lifting. Fellow Taoist Han, you are now in the gray realm, and your body is exposed to the baleful qi of the outside world at every moment. You are already someone undergoing the baleful decay, with dense baleful qi within your body, like a trax-like. Ever since you entered the gray realm, without your noticing it, the baleful qi within your body has been accumulating rapidly, reaching an extremely concentrated level. Most likely it was precisely because the baleful qi inside you had grown too dense that it triggered the riot within your immortal apertures, Mo Guang said, his gaze flickering. So that was indeed the case, Hanli murmured with a nod. It seemed that after entering the gray realm, although on the surface he had appeared able to adapt to its baleful qi environment, the truth was that because he had already accumulated a great deal of baleful qi within himself before coming here, and because by a bizarre twist of fate he had even cultivated a gray realm technique, his body had undergone certain changes. Put simply, he was now little different from half a gray immortal. Under such circumstances, while he could move freely in the gray realm, repeated eruptions of baleful qi would slowly make his body adapt more and more to that environment. If this continued, then in no more than 1,000 years or so, he would likely become a true gray immortal completely with no way back. The baleful qi in the rest of your body is manageable, Mo Guang said seriously. If you take purging Sha pills and have my assistance, expelling it is not too difficult. But there is nothing I can do about the baleful qi in your immortal apertures. We barely managed to suppress this eruption, but the next one and the one after that may not be so easy. It seems the only option now is to either find a way back to the true immortal realm as soon as possible, or directly pass through the tribulation of baleful decay, Hanli said with a bitter laugh. That was what he said, but inwardly he knew full well that leaving the gray realm anytime soon was clearly no easy matter. On the other hand, trying to pass through the baleful decay tribulation in an environment like the gray realm was even more wildly unrealistic. He had now fallen into a dilemma with no path forward or back. After Mo Guang left, Hanli sat back down cross-legged. While regulating his breathing and steadying the aura within his body, a thoughtful expression appeared on his face, and no one knew what he was pondering. Before long, a series of knocks sounded from outside the door. It was Shi Chuankong, seeing that matters on this side had finally settled down and coming to look for him. Hanli rose and opened the door, ushering him inside. Fellow Taoist Li, you've remained behind closed doors these past days because of the baleful qi, so I didn't dare disturb you rashly. During that time, Miao Xiu came by twice, and both times I made up excuses to send her away. If you still didn't show yourselves soon, I was afraid the San Miao clan would start growing suspicious, Shi Chuankong said after sitting down. What did Miao Xiu come here for? Hanli asked, frowning slightly. She didn't say in detail. It seems that in a few days she'll be leaving the Black Teeth domain for a while, and before departing she wanted to pay Jiangu, that is, fellow Taoist Mo Guang, another visit. But I think it's more likely they also felt the earlier baleful qi fluctuations here were unusual and wanted to probe the situation, Shi Chuankong said with a shake of his head. Either possibility is fine. If she comes again tomorrow, we'll meet with her then. With Mo Guang here as a member of the Shuhe clan, they shouldn't have any other ideas, nor would they dare, Hanli said after some thought. Shi Chuankong nodded. Once that matter had been discussed, he did not leave, but neither did he say anything else. Silence filled the room. Does fellow Taoist Shi have something else to say? Hanli asked, glancing at him. Fellow Taoist Li, there is indeed something I'd like to ask of you, though I don't know whether I should say it, Shi Chuankong said hesitantly. Speak freely, Hanli replied. That purging Sha pill you used on me before, could you give me another one? These days I've had to constantly fend off the baleful qi invading my body. Not only is it consuming a huge amount of immortal spiritual power, but still thread after thread of baleful qi slips through and enters my physique, Shi Chuankong said, his brows furrowed. That may be a little troublesome, Hanli said, one brow lifting slightly. I know the pill is extremely precious, so just name your price, fellow Taoist Li. I'm willing to pay heavily for it, Shi Chuankong said hurriedly when he saw Hanli hesitate. You misunderstand, fellow Taoist Shi. It's not that I'm unwilling to part with the pill. The problem is that of the two pills I had left before, one was used to save you, and the other I used 2 days ago to suppress the backlash of my own baleful qi. I don't have a single one left now, Hanli said with a light sigh. Then can this pill be refined again? Or is there some other similar pill? Shi Chuankong asked. His expression dimmed somewhat, but he quickly recovered. There's no similar pill, but I still have some of the materials needed to refine the purging Sha pill. I had originally intended to do it again after some time had passed, but now it seems I'll have to do it as soon as possible, Hanli said with a bitter smile. Fellow Taoist Li, once you refine it, you must sell me some. Name whatever conditions you wish. After all, I already owe you not only a debt of gratitude from this journey to the Grey Realm, so a little more will hardly matter. If we ever return to the Immortal Realm, I'll repay you double, Shi Chuankong said in delight. Rest assured, fellow Taoist Shi. We're all in the same boat now. Naturally we have to weather this together, Hanli said with a smile. The two of them talked for a long while before Shi Chuankong finally took his leave. After seeing him out, Hanli pondered for a moment, then sat back down and closed his eyes to meditate. Night fell and outside the window baleful qi filled the air, rising into a hazy dark mist. Hanli slowly opened his eyes, concealed his aura, opened the door and slipped outside in a flash. He passed through one stone fortress after another, sneaking through the area in search of something. After pausing briefly before another stone fortress building only a few hundred feet from the one where he lived, Hanli suddenly accelerated again and this time flew straight out of Yoha City. He did not stop until he reached the bank of a pitch-black river outside the city. There he descended and stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing over the broad surface of the water. After a while, a streak of black light descended from the heavens, turning into a mass of black flames that coiled fiercely before revealing a tall figure. Taoist Master Bailey, it has been a long time, Hanli said as he turned to face the man. The figure frowned tightly and looked at Hanli. Who are you? Why did you secretly send word asking me to meet you here? There is no need for concern, Taoist Master Bailey. It is I. We have met several times before, though we never spoke directly, Hanli said, raising a hand to remove the disguise concealing his appearance. Bailey Yan did not lower his guard. He carefully examined Hanli, and his expression changed abruptly. Fellow Taoist Li, it really is you? No, that can't be right. How are you here? He exclaimed in astonishment. To be honest, while exploring a certain ruin, I was swallowed by a spatial vortex by accident, and that is how I ended up here. But how did you come to the Grey Realm, Taoist Master Bailey? Hanli asked with a wry smile, once more concealing his aura. He was not surprised that Bailey Yan recognized him. After all, there was the connection through Taoist Huyan. My way here was not nearly as strange as yours. I came to the Grey Realm through the Reincarnation Palace, Bailey Yan said, his brows relaxing as he smiled. Through the Reincarnation Palace? Taoist Master Bailey, may I ask what relation there is between the Reincarnation Palace and the Reincarnation Domain? Hanli asked, puzzled. That is truly not an easy question to explain, Bailey Yan said after some thought. The Reincarnation Palace is a force in the Immortal Realm, while the Reincarnation Domain is a force in the Grey Realm. But they do have one thing in common. The Master of the Reincarnation Palace is also the Lord of the Reincarnation Domain. Put that way, I think you understand. Hanli was deeply shaken when he heard this. He had originally assumed that the reincarnation domain was probably just a gray immortal faction cooperating with the reincarnation palace. He had never imagined that the two were actually one and the same, or that the mysterious master of the reincarnation palace was in fact a supreme being powerful enough to control major forces in both the immortal realm and the gray realm. Seeing Han Li fall silent in astonishment, Bailey Yin suddenly said, "So you arrived in the gray realm by accident? To survive intact in such a strange realm until now is truly rare. No wonder fellow Taoist Huyan thought so highly of you and praised you so much back then. I only managed to survive by a lucky series of chances, and by concealing my identity. It hardly counts as any real ability," Han Li said with a dismissive wave. "Remaining in the gray realm is not a long-term plan. The body of one from the immortal realm is corroded by baleful qi at every moment. Once the immortal body decays, your foundation of cultivation will inevitably be ruined. Either you die and your Tao vanishes, or you fall completely into becoming a gray immortal. Either way, the end is tragic. You had best return to the immortal realm as soon as possible," Bailey Yin said gravely. "It is not that I do not wish to return. The problem is that I simply cannot find a way back. Otherwise, who would willingly remain in this barren realm overflowing with baleful qi?" Han Li said with a bitter smile. At this, Bailey Yin frowned tightly. After hesitating again and again, he finally said, "The method of returning to the immortal realm is originally one of the reincarnation palace's secrets and should not be told to outsiders. But in the nether-cold immortal manner back then, fellow Taoist Huyen seized a Tai pill and helped me gather my karmic flame so that I would not burn myself alive. You, fellow Taoist Han, also contributed greatly to that. This debt of gratitude is one I must repay. Take this token." As he spoke, he turned one hand over, revealing a round token about the size of a palm in his palm, and handed it toward Han Li. "This is..." Han Li hesitated and did not accept it at once. "This is my reincarnation token. With it, if you go to any great city in the gray realm of Lord level, you will be able to find a branch hall of the reincarnation palace. They will tell you how to return to the immortal realm. Of course, this token only gives you a path. Whether you can actually succeed depends on the circumstances, and that part can only be left to you," Bailey Yin said slowly. Han Li accepted the token and examined it carefully. He found its material extremely unusual. It contained strands of pure baleful qi, and was clearly not an object of the immortal realm. One side was engraved with the words Reincarnation Palace, while the other bore the characters 6 paths carved in intaglio. "This is far too precious. I imagine you only have this one, Taoist Master Bailey. If you give it to me, how will you yourself return to the immortal realm in the future?" Han Li asked, shaking his head as he handed it back. "You should know that back then, when I drew karmic fire into my own body, my flesh had long since been eroded by baleful qi. It was only by relying on that Tai pill to step into a false Tai realm that I could barely suppress it and stop myself from completely decaying. The reason I came to the gray realm now is to resolve this matter once and for all. If I cannot, then there will be no need for me to leave the gray realm," Bailey Yin said with a sigh. "A false Tai realm. Karmic fire and baleful qi spring from the same source, differing only in manifestation. But if that is so, why would you come to a place like the gray realm, where heaven and earth are filled with baleful qi, to seek a way to resolve karmic fire?" Han Li asked in great confusion. The marvels of heaven and earth's creation are beyond words. In this gray realm where baleful qi fills all things, there exists a place called the cleansing Sha pool. Within it is contained a kind of lightning called bone-washing golden thunder, an utterly firm and yang force of thunder that can break all yin and baleful energies. If one soaks one's body in the cleansing Sha pool, all the baleful qi throughout the body can be washed away, and both body and soul can be tempered. The benefits are tremendous, Bailey Yin explained. "There is actually such a place in the gray realm? Do you know where it is, fellow Taoist Bailey?" Han Li asked at once, overjoyed. "The cleansing Sha pool is extremely rare. At present, I have only been able to gather information on one such place. It lies within the territory of the 9 Nether domain, and is a sacred land sealed off by the clans there. Ordinary people are not permitted to enter." "Why? Are you interested in the cleansing Sha pool as well?" Bailey Yin asked, glancing at him. "You may not know this, fellow Taoist Bailey, But I am plagued by the tribulation of baleful decay and always on the edge of collapse. I have been worrying over how to resolve it, Hanli said bitterly. After hearing that, Bailey Yen carefully examined Hanli again from head to toe, especially staring at his eyes for a long while. His expression became even graver. Fellow Taoist Han, the backlash of your baleful decay is different from the karmic fire that entered my body. Unless you are already at death's door, it would be best for you to return to the Immortal Realm and seek another method. The one I just mentioned should not be considered, Bailey Yen said after a long pause. And why is that? I hope you will tell me plainly, Taoist Master Bailey, Hanli asked, frowning. The Nine Nether Domain is the most conservative, and also the most ruthless of the three great powers in this region of the Grey Realm. They have never permitted outside races from other realms to set foot in their territory, much less people from the Immortal Realm. The moment you enter, if you are discovered, there will be absolutely no chance of escape, Bailey Yen said slowly. I had previously heard that the Grey Realm was divided among three great powers, but I never knew how that came to be. Since the opportunity is here, perhaps Taoist Master Bailey can enlighten me, Hanli said, changing the subject instead of continuing to press about infiltrating the Nine Nether Domain. Very well, I'll tell you, Bailey Yen said after a brief hesitation. Within the Grey Realm, the radical faction consists of many domains under the rule of the Master of the Reincarnation Palace. Their position is to unite the strength of the Grey Realm and attack the Immortal Realm. The conservative faction, on the other hand, is led by the Lord of the Nine Nether Domain and includes many other domains. They believe the Immortal Realm's constant infiltration into the Grey Realm is entirely the result of the Reincarnation Domain's meddling. So they advocate reorganizing the Grey Realm's strength, but are unwilling to have any contact with the Immortal Realm. As for the third faction, it is made up of domains led by the Lord of the Black Rope Domain. They wish to preserve the status quo, neither actively attacking the Immortal Realm, nor engaging in internal conflict that would weaken themselves. So there is a reason behind all this after all. But since they are all powers of the Grey Realm, why do they hold such different views toward the Immortal Realm? Hanli asked, nodding thoughtfully. That is determined by the composition of the clans within each force. The Reincarnation Domain contains many corpse-severed immortals, and because they possess a powerful obsession with the Immortal Realm, they naturally wish to return there. The Nine Nether Domain, by contrast, is mainly made up of native Grey Immortals. They advocate defending their homeland and do not wish to provoke conflict with the Immortal Realm. As for the Black Rope Domain, although most of its members are also native Grey Immortals, they are dissatisfied with the arrogance and unilateral behavior of the Nine Nether Domain on the one hand, while on the other they do not trust the corpse-severed Grey Immortals of the Reincarnation Domain. Thus they remain uncertain and wavering between the two, Bailey Yen continued. I see. But what exactly are these corpse-severed Grey Immortals you speak of? Hanli asked, still puzzled. You do not know, fellow Taoist Li, Bailey Yen said. Before one in the Immortal Realm reaches the level of Tao Ancestor after achieving Great Luo, one must sever one's corpse soul 3 times, cutting off all worldly ties and root attachments. Those severed things are called the 3 corpses. Most of them are the deepest obsessions a Great Luo cultivator has on the path of the Great Tao, and once severed, they become mortal enemies of the original body. For various reasons, these 3 corpses entered the Grey Realm and eventually formed the corpse-severed immortals. Hanli listened, feeling as though he were wrapped in mist and clouds, with doubts springing up at many points. Just as he was about to ask more, Bailey Yen waved a hand and continued. The severing of the 3 corpses is always one of the most closely guarded secrets of every Great Luo cultivator. It is not something they speak of lightly. I myself am still unimaginably far from that step, so the information I have is limited. I cannot answer whatever other questions you may have. In that case, does that mean there is simply no way for me to enter the Nine Nether Domain at all? Hanli asked with a bitter smile. If it were in the past, then yes, there would have been no way for you to infiltrate the Nine Nether Domain. But even if there is a chance now, the odds of you finding the cleansing Sha pool are still extremely slim, let alone actually entering it, and the place itself carries mortal danger, Bailey Yen said, shaking his head. To be honest, my baleful decay tribulation is quite unusual. I have already tried many methods before, and none of them worked. This cleansing Sha pool may be the only way for me to free myself from the torment of baleful qi, and advance into the Tai realm. Since you say there is now a chance to enter the 9 nether domain, I do not wish to let it slip by. Please tell me the truth and I Li will be deeply grateful, Han Li said solemnly, cupping his fists. After hearing this, Bailey Yin fell silent for a long while, clearly wrestling with a difficult decision. Han Li did not urge him and simply waited quietly. At this point, many of the things I have already said involve numerous hidden secrets and ought not to be told to you. But since you once helped me, and you are certainly not a man of the heavenly court, I may as well tell you everything, Bailey Yin finally said with a long sigh. The reason I came to Yoha City this time is actually to represent the reincarnation domain in persuading the Black Teeth domain to join our side and cast its vote for us in the upcoming 3 domains alliance. And the place where that alliance meeting will be held is Shura City in the 9 nether domain. In that case, I can use this alliance meeting as a chance to enter the 9 nether domain. If so, would it be possible for me to attend together with you, fellow Taoist Bailey? Han Li asked, his eyes lighting up slightly. The 3 domains alliance concerns the Grey Realm's overall stance toward the Immortal Realm. It is of the utmost importance. I am currently charged with a mission and still need to contact more neutral forces under the Black Rope domain, such as the Black Teeth domain, in order to secure an advantage for the Reincarnation domain. Besides, in the end you are not truly a member of the Reincarnation Palace, so I cannot bring you along at my side, Bailey Yin said, shaking his head. That is reasonable. There would indeed be many inconveniences if I followed you. Since you came here this time to win over Lord Miao Gao, then the Black Teeth domain will definitely be going to this meeting. I can simply travel with them to the 9 nether domain, Han Li said with a nod. Have you really made up your mind to go to the 9 nether domain? This alliance meeting may be an opportunity, but the clans of the 9 nether domain will surely strengthen the defenses around their sacred land as well. The danger will be greater than you can imagine. You must think this through, Bailey Yin said, still somewhat uneasy. Rest assured, Taoist Master Bailey. I know my own limits, Han Li said with a smile and a nod. Back then, fellow Taoist Huyan said you were no ordinary man. His judgment truly was exceptional. I just never thought we would meet again under these circumstances, Bailey Yin said, and seeing this, gave up trying to dissuade him and laughed freely. He must be enjoying life immensely these days. That is something the two of us can only envy. Fortunately, I learned quite a few methods of brewing wine from him back then. I still have some wine here. Taoist Master Bailey, would you care for a cup? Han Li asked with a smile. 1 cup? Not nearly enough. 10 jars, 100 jars still wouldn't be enough. Ha ha. Bailey Yin laughed heartily. The two talked to their heart's content, and it was not until dawn was near that they finally bade each other farewell and returned to their respective lodgings. Not long after that, Bailey Yin left Yoha City. That very afternoon, Miao Xiao came again to visit Mo Guang, and mentioned that she would be accompanying her father to Shura City to attend the 3 Domains Alliance. Acting on Han Li's instructions, Mo Guang immediately said that he was quite interested in the meeting as well and wished to accompany Miao Gao and the others to take part, while also taking the opportunity to see the sights of the 9 nether domain. Miao Xiao did not agree on the spot. She said she would return and report the matter to Miao Gao, leaving the decision to her father. Not long afterward, she returned with the news that her father had agreed, and that they could indeed travel together to Shura City. Han Li had been somewhat surprised at first, but he quickly understood the reasoning. The Nisi Tua domain that had attacked the Temuta gathering earlier was itself a minor domain under the 9 nether domain. Clearly, until the alliance meeting produced a final outcome, relations between the domains were not stable. With Han Li and his 2 companions traveling alongside them on the way to the 9 nether domain, their safety would naturally be greatly improved. Why would they refuse such an arrangement? However, because so many clans would be attending the gathering this time, the assembly date had been set far in advance. There was still nearly half a year before Miao Gao and the others were due to depart for the 9 nether domain. Several months later, the day of departure finally arrived. On the plaza before the gate of the Lord's residence was moored a huge 3-story ship, the very same one Han Li and the others had ridden before. However, the horned horses pulling it were now much larger than the previous 3, and each one had 3 pairs of fleshy wings growing from its back. Han Li and his 2 companions, along with Miao Gao, Miao Xiao, and a hawk-nosed man in gray robes, 6 people in all emerged from the entrance. 3 of you, we must first go to Blackteeth City in the Blackteeth Domain, and meet up with the Domain Lord there. Only then will we head together to the 9 Nether Domain, Miao Gao said to Han Li's group. We are merely accompanying you to have a look around. Lord Miao may proceed exactly as usual, Mo Guang replied with a smile and a nod. Han Li and Shi Chuankong stood quietly at his sides and said nothing. This 3 domains alliance is a major matter in the Grey Realm, and every domain takes it extremely seriously. Please accept these guest elder tokens so no one questions your identities, Miao Gao said, flipping a hand and producing 3 black tokens, which he passed over. Han Li and the others accepted them, stowed them away, and thanked him. May I ask, Lord Miao, how long the journey from here to Blackteeth City will take? Mo Guang asked. Blackteeth City lies in the central region of the Blackteeth Domain. Though these 3 6-winged horned horses are much faster than 4-winged ones, the journey will still take around a dozen years, Miao Gao replied. Mo Guang nodded without saying anything more. A dozen years? Han Li's gaze flickered at those words and he frowned slightly. He had only been in the Grey Realm for a few years, and yet the baleful qi accumulating in his body had already caused an upheaval in the baleful qi within his immortal apertures. If he found no countermeasure, then over the course of a dozen years it would likely erupt several more times. The time is about right. Please board, Miao Gao said, making a gesture of invitation to Mo Guang. After the 3 of them boarded, he too stepped onto the ship. The gray-robed young man walked to the prow and formed a hand seal. The horned horses spread their fleshy wings, pulling the building-sized ship up into the sky, and before long it vanished into the distant horizon. Miao Xiu then arranged rooms for the 3 of them, and they were the same quarters they had stayed in before. The moment Han Li entered his room, he immediately shut the door and laid down several layers of restrictions in succession. Then, with a sweep of his arm and a flash of golden lightning, Daoist Xie appeared. Fellow Daoist Xie, I'll have to trouble you to stand guard here again, Han Li said. As he spoke, one of his fingers moved, and a silvery white light gate appeared. Daoist Xie did not say anything more and merely nodded. Han Li returned the nod, and with a sway of his body he flew into the light gate and entered the flower branch space. By hiding within the flower branch space, where his body would no longer come into contact with the outside baleful qi, he could greatly delay the eruption of the baleful qi within his immortal apertures. Han Li sat down cross-legged in a secret chamber within the pavilion. With a wave of his hand, a heap of materials appeared beside him in a flash of green light. They were precisely the ingredients for the purging Sha pill. As for the other materials needed for the pill, he had gathered quite a few the last time and stored them in his storage treasure. And now, by a stroke of luck, he had obtained the 2 main ingredients, the Xuanji crystal stone and the Kuluo flower, so at last he could begin refining the pill again. After sorting through all the materials one by one, Han Li did not start refining immediately. Instead, he flipped a hand and took out a map, the map of the Blackteeth Domain. His finger lightly traced the route between Yoha City and Blackteeth City, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Then he put the map away, slowly closed his eyes and sat in silence. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another half-year had passed. Late one night, inside a cabin aboard the tower ship, Han Li flickered out of the flower branch space. Daoist Xie had been sitting cross-legged. The moment he saw Han Li appear, he rose to his feet. Fellow Daoist Xie, keep watch here. If anyone comes, send word to me at once, Han Li said. Then he formed a hand seal with both hands. A dim, ghostly light rippled across his body, and in an instant he turned into a blurred phantom shadow and shot toward the outside. The restraints in the room automatically split open a crack, and the shadow slipped through it and emerged outside. Everything beyond was pitch black. Only a few white glowstones set into the outer corridor of the tower ship gave off a weak, pallid light, far too faint to drive back the surrounding darkness. There was not a soul in the corridor. Only the gray-robed man at the prow remained, controlling the tower ship as it sped onward. A layer of black restriction light surrounded the ship, its surface flickering with misty black radiance. Han Li glanced at the gray-robed man, then quickly withdrew his gaze and turned it to the black barrier outside. After a brief flash in his eyes, he immediately shot outward. The instant his phantom form touched the black restriction, It spread apart, dissolving into a half-visible cloud of dusky mist. The mist slipped straight through the black barrier without causing the slightest disturbance. The dark mist then gathered together again, reforming into a shadowy figure that plunged swiftly downward until it landed on the ground below. What lay beneath was a vast grassland. They were still within the June grassland, and the earth rose and fell in gentle waves. Hanli flipped out the map and at the same time released his spiritual sense with all his might. A moment later, delight appeared on his face, and he fled in one direction. Less than half an hour later, a stretch of marshland appeared ahead. Bubbling black mud churned everywhere, and gusts of frigid wind surged up from underground now and then, rolling over the swamp. Gray-white mist filled the air, carrying a pungent sulphurous stench. Black sludge, gray-white mist, and this smell just as expected, Hanli murmured. Without slowing in the slightest, he flew deeper into the marsh. This swamp was precisely the endless marsh of the June grassland, the place where kuluo flowers grew. On the road from Yoha City to Black Teeth City, the route happened to pass near the endless marsh, making it the perfect chance to gather some kuluo flowers. Once he began refining the susha pill, he would not be able to finish in less than 2 or 3 years, which was why Hanli had not started pill refinement earlier. He took a deep breath and once again increased his speed, quickly flying into the depths of the endless marsh. The baleful aura here was extraordinarily dense, and the air also carried an intensely icy chill. Hanli slowly spread out his spiritual sense, probing the surroundings. His eyes soon lit up, and he flew in one direction. After only a few breaths, he descended beside a small earthen mound. Near the mound grew 3 translucent plants about 3 feet tall. Their leaves were clear and thin like ice crystals, with veins visible throughout, glowing with a faint radiance. They were kuluo flowers. The corner of Hanli's mouth lifted. With a wave of his hand, he released a burst of azure light that enveloped the 3 flowers. He was just about to uproot them when a black blur suddenly shot out from the side, darting at his left foot with astonishing speed. A muffled bang rang out. Azure light flared from Hanli's foot and instantly turned into a green shield that blocked the black blur and knocked it back. At the same moment, a sharp whistle sounded as a streak of green sword light flew from Hanli's hand and sliced the black shadow in two. The creature was a tiny black snake. A triangular black fleshy lump grew from its head, and its mouth was filled with backward hooked teeth, making it look ferocious. Even after being cut into 2 pieces, it did not die immediately, but writhed and twisted on the ground. Hanli paid no attention to the black snake. With a wave of his hand, he pulled the 3 kuluo flowers out by the roots and stored them away. Once he had put them away, he did not linger there, but continued flying onward. After going forward for about a quarter of an hour, his eyes brightened again. He shifted direction and soon stopped above a shallow depression. Inside the hollow, 2 more kuluo flowers were growing. He immediately went to work, dug them up, put them away and continued searching ahead. In the blink of an eye, most of the night had passed, and dawn was beginning to break. Hanli flew out from a gigantic pit several hundred feet wide in the depths of the swamp. A trace of fatigue showed on his face, but excitement outweighed it by far. After searching for most of the night, he had collected nearly 100 kuluo flowers. The harvest had been immense. With this many kuluo flowers, he would have no worries about pill refinement in the future. And if he brought them back to the true Immortal Realm, they would amount to a substantial fortune. Although there were still plenty of kuluo flowers in the swamp, he had already delayed for most of the night and could not continue searching. Hanli let out a long breath. The weariness on his face eased somewhat. Closing his eyes, he sensed the location of the tower ship, then shot off toward it like lightning. He had not flown very far when a sudden boom exploded inside his mind, and his whole body began trembling uncontrollably. A sickening urge to vomit rose from his organs and rushed straight into his mind. At the same time, the blood and chi throughout his body reversed course in an instant and surged toward his heart. His expression changed. He hurriedly circulated his cultivation art to suppress it, while also preparing to examine the surroundings. Yet just then, the nauseating sensation abruptly vanished completely, and his blood and chi returned to normal. Everything that had just happened felt as though it had been an illusion. Hanli froze for a moment, Green light flashed over his body as he halted mid-flight and swept the area with his spiritual sense, but he found nothing unusual. A thoughtful look appeared on his face. His eyes flickered and he turned around, slowly flying back the way he had come. After retreating some distance, the urge to vomit struck again. Hanli frowned and forced himself to endure it. Both his eyes and spiritual sense probed the ground beneath him, and his gaze soon landed on a pool of water. The force that was making his blood run backward and his organs twist was coming from that very pool. Hanli circled around the pool and soon showed a look of realization. The strange power emanating from the pool covered only a radius of 20 or 30 yards. Once beyond that range, the nausea disappeared. He looked at the still, ancient well-like surface of the water, hesitation on his face. But in the end, curiosity got the better of him. He plunged into the pool and dove downward. The pool was not deep. He soon reached the bottom, where the ground was fairly level and littered with a heap of irregular stones. The stones were of different sizes and shapes, but all of them were pitch black and marked with crack-like patterns resembling ice fissures. At a glance, they looked anything but ordinary. Hanli stared at the black stone pile, and the corner of his eye twitched slightly. Now that he was at the bottom of the pool, the sickening sensation had grown far stronger, and it was clearly coming from the black pile of stones. Suddenly he lifted a foot and swept it forward. A crescent-shaped arc of azure light shot out and struck the pile, shoving the stones aside and revealing what lay underneath. Hanli's gaze sharpened slightly. Embedded at an angle in the ground beneath the stone pile was a long black saber. The entire saber was black, almost like charred wood, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. Coiled over the guard was a vicious relief of a two-headed fox. The blade was broad and ancient in style with a slight curve. A dark red line extended from the hilt all the way down the blade, seeming to run to the very tip. A massive, grotesque aura that made one want to retch poured from the ancient black saber, several times stronger than before when it had still been covered by the black stones. Hanli's face immediately turned pale, and he took a step back. Then he gave a low shout, and dazzling golden light burst forth to shield his whole body. Only then did his expression return to normal. As he looked at the ancient black saber, his brows suddenly drew together. Ever since arriving in the Grey Realm, everything he had seen had been in monotonous shades of black, white, and gray. Nothing was an exception. The red mark on this saber was the first truly different color he had seen in the Grey Realm. His thoughts stirred. He released a strand of spiritual sense and let it touch the black saber. The instant his spiritual sense brushed the blade, before it could even seep inside, it was swallowed by a cold, sinister force. Hanli's face went white. A violent stabbing pain erupted in his mind, as if someone had bitten a chunk of flesh right off him. At the same time, black light blazed from the saber, and within it appeared twisted human faces screaming in madness. An utterly evil power seeped from the blade and followed that strand of spiritual sense straight into Hanli's mind. His originally pure spiritual sense instantly turned murky, churning in violent disorder. The radiance of his soul dimmed sharply, and faint threads of black light appeared around it, invading inward. A profound nausea welled up from deep within him. It felt as though all his organs had been turned inside out, while his senses and perceptions fell into chaos. "Urk," Hanli retched dryly. His expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated as golden light flashed wildly over his body. The power of the law of time surged out and stood in front of him like a barrier. The power of time was immensely potent. It immediately blocked the invasion of that evil force, and the spiritual sense and soul in his mind quickly returned to normal. Hanli panted heavily and retreated all the way to the farthest edge of the pool bottom before finally stopping. The evil force let out a faint, unwilling roar before slowly withdrawing back into the black saber. What kind of terrifying thing is this black blade? It can not only devour spiritual sense, but even attack the soul. Hanli stared at the saber, shaken and full of lingering fear. With his current power, he had almost failed to withstand that evil force. The law of time. To think someone in the Grey Realm could actually comprehend this law. At that moment, the black saber suddenly gave a buzzing hum. A point of white light lit up on the two-headed fox relief and instantly spread across the entire blade. The black light coming from the saber struggled unwillingly for a few moments, But in the end it was suppressed by the white light and all of it sank back into the blade, disappearing. A white flash came from the two-headed fox relief, and a blurry white figure emerged. It looked like a middle-aged man, and he was examining Han Li with evident curiosity. The man wore a white robe. His brows were thick, and his hair hung loose in disarray, giving him an unkempt appearance. Yet through the strands of hair one could still see that his face was strikingly handsome. Han Li looked at the white-robed man's phantom and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. Though the man looked ragged, he gave Han Li a strangely familiar feeling, though Han Li could not place it for the moment. So that's it. So you're a human cultivator from the Immortal Realm. You've got quite the nerve, youngster. Instead of staying safely in the true Immortal Realm, you actually dared to come to the Grey Realm, the white-robed man said with a smile after looking Han Li up and down a few times. Who are you? Han Li asked slowly, startled inwardly. His disguise was flawless, yet this man had seen through it at a glance. Still, although the white-robed man had emerged from the black saber, he did not seem malicious. And while the saber's evil power was formidable, Han Li believed he could still handle it to some extent. Who am I? That is a fine question. You may call me Shi Qingho, the white-robed man said, flicking his sleeve and smiling faintly, his manner as calm and clear as moonlight and wind. Shi Qingho, could you perhaps be the spirit of this ancient saber? Han Li asked again. As he spoke, he searched his memory for the Grey Realm texts he had read over the past days. None of them mentioned this name, so he could not tell whether it was real. A spirit? In a sense, yes, Shi Qingho said. A flash of hatred passed through his eyes at Han Li's words, though it disappeared the very next instant. Han Li caught that change of expression and his thoughts stirred, but nothing showed on his face. He moved his lips, about to speak again. You've already asked me 2 questions, youngster. Since you come from the true Immortal Realm, surely you know the principle that courtesy should be returned in kind. It's my turn to ask now, isn't it? Shi Qingho said, lifting a hand to cut him off. You're right. Please ask, Han Li said with a slight start, then raised a hand. My question is much the same as yours. Who are you, and why have you appeared here? Shi Qingho's eyes suddenly turned razor-sharp, and a terrifying aura, like that of a primordial beast, surged skyward from him. The black light on the ancient saber also flared violently. Within it, the outline of a gigantic 2-headed demon fox seemed to take shape, both eyes fixed on Han Li as though ready to tear him to pieces in the next instant. My name is Li Han. My arrival in the Grey Realm was purely accidental. While exploring a secret realm in the Immortal Realm, I was swallowed by a spatial vortex and ended up here, Han Li said calmly, his expression unchanged in the face of Shi Qingho's overwhelming pressure. Shi Qingho frowned at those words. His eyes flickered as if weighing whether Han Li was telling the truth. I don't know whether what you say is true, but from the look of you, you do not seem to be someone sent by Yin Chengquan. If that's the case, then we are not enemies, Shi Qingho said after staring at Han Li for quite a while. With a wave of his hand, his terrifying aura receded like the ebbing tide, and the soaring blade light of the black saber quickly drew back. Yin Chengquan. Han Li's brows rose slightly. The name was unfamiliar to him as well. Although he wished to ask about it, he had something more important to say first. I have already answered your 2 questions. Now it is my turn again. What exactly is this black saber? Han Li asked, lightly brushing his sleeve. You don't know this blade? That makes sense. You actually dared to touch the blood-transforming saber with your spiritual sense just now, so you clearly aren't one of Yin Chengquan's people, Shi Qingho said, startled for a moment, then nodding to himself. After saying that, he fell into thought as if considering something. You still haven't answered my question, Han Li said, flicking a finger in reminder. Shi Qingho came back to himself and said, this blade is called the Heavenly Fox Blood-Transforming Saber. Any person slain by it will have their soul forever imprisoned within, never to escape the cycle of rebirth. Since time immemorial, the number of dead beneath this blade has been immense, so the baleful resentment contained within it has naturally reached a truly shocking level. You've already experienced it yourself, so I needn't explain further. The Heavenly Fox Blood-Transforming Saber. It seems it is indeed a rare treasure, Han Li murmured, though the explanation only deepened his doubts. But now it was Shi Qinghe's turn to speak. Human youngster, since you are not one of Yin Chengxuan's people, and since you wield the power of the law of time, how about the two of us make a deal? Shi Qinghe said, abruptly changing the subject. A deal? What deal? Hanli narrowed his eyes, instantly growing cautious. Rest assured, I bear you no ill will. This deal will benefit both of us, Shi Qinghe said with a smile, then waved a hand. A beam of white light flew from his palm and flashed into the ground beside the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. At once, the ground began to hum and tremble. Soon, centered on the saber, the earth within a radius of more than 10 yards rose slowly by half a foot, forming a circular stone platform. The soil on the platform was quickly shaken away, revealing a gray stone surface engraved with black lines that spread across the entire platform in the shape of an intricate grayed array. Streaks of inky black radiance welled up from the array and sped outward, giving off shrill, mournful howls that chilled the heart. The heavenly fox blood-transforming saber was embedded at the center of the black array, layer upon layer of formations surrounding it as though keeping it sealed there. What is this? Hanli said, surprise showing on his face. He had just swept the surroundings with his spiritual sense and had not noticed any such formation underground. This great array was completely different from Immortal Realm formations. It was a type of restraint unique to the Grey Realm. Hanli had read a few books on Grey Realm formations during these past days, but only scratched the surface. He could not understand this black formation at all. Even though he could not make sense of it, he could feel how profound and mysterious it was. Layers upon layers of restraining power were woven within it, changing endlessly, vast as the starry sky. It was no less formidable than any restriction he had ever seen. This is a sealing array. Since you come from the true Immortal Realm, you may not understand it. The heavenly fox blood-transforming saber has been sealed here, and along with it, I too have been imprisoned here, unable to leave for all eternity. My request is simple. Pull the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber out of this seal. Naturally, I won't have you work for nothing. If you can take me away from here, I can control the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber for your use and aid you at your side for 100,000 years, Shi Qinghe said solemnly. Pull out the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. You overestimate me. I may possess a few abilities, but this great black heavenly Tao divine seal is incomparably powerful. I do not believe I have the ability to break it, Hanli said. His eyes had briefly brightened, but he soon shook his head. By yourself, naturally not. I have remained within this heavenly fox blood-transforming saber for who knows how many years. Through the blade, I have continually eroded this great black heavenly Tao divine seal, and already refined away quite a portion of it. I can reduce more than half of the formation's power for you, Shi Qinghe said with a smile. In that case, it might be worth considering. But if all it took was that, you should have already escaped long ago. There must be another obstacle to drawing the blade, Hanli said, stroking his chin meaningfully. Of course. Even though I can weaken more than half the seal, pulling the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber free still requires strength at least on the Tai realm level. And if I use my full power to suppress the array, I won't be able to restrain the saber itself. The moment you touch it, you will suffer backlash from the boundless resentment within the blade. Only one of the three supreme laws could hope to withstand it. Since you possess the law of time, I thought to cooperate with you. Otherwise, I would never have considered it. Hanli's smile faded at those words. He lowered his head and fell silent as though weighing something. Well, human youngster, what do you think of the proposal? Shi Qinghe asked after waiting a while, and seeing that Hanli still had no intention of speaking. According to you, it certainly sounds like a win-win arrangement. But I'm afraid I must decline. You will have to find someone else, Hanli said, lifting his head and shaking it. Shi Qinghe's brows instantly drew together, and his face darkened. Hanli acted as though he noticed nothing and turned as if to leave. Wait, do you understand what the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber represents? With this blade in hand, your power would increase at least tenfold. I can see that your cultivation is only at the peak of the golden immortal stage, but with my aid, sweeping across the Tai realm would be no problem. Even so, you still mean to give it up? Shi Qinghe said slowly. The heavenly fox blood-transforming saber may be powerful, but it is controlled by you. It is not an ownerless treasure. And how do I know that everything you just said is true? I have only just arrived in the Grey Realm. It is wiser for me to act cautiously, Hanli said, completely unmoved. So your suspicion lies with me. That is only natural. Very well. Tell me, what would it take for you to trust my sincerity? Shi Qinghe said. Instead of anger, his expression relaxed and he spoke openly. If you want me to trust you, you must first agree to 2 conditions, Hanli said after a brief pause. Speak them, Shi Qinghe replied without the slightest change in expression. First, I want to know your identity. You are not the saber spirit of this heavenly fox blood-transforming saber, are you? And who is the Yin Changquan you mentioned, and what grudge lies between the 2 of you? Hanli said, staring steadily at Shi Qinghe's face. What do you need all that for? Shi Qinghe asked, his formerly calm expression shifting. Let's not hide behind polite words. I may be able to take you from here, but I have no wish to invite trouble upon myself. If you do not make these matters clear, I will not agree to your proposal, Hanli said evenly. A complicated look appeared on Shi Qinghe's face. After a long silence he finally said, Very well. Since you insist on asking, I can tell you. But knowing too much is not always a good thing. I'm listening, Hanli said with a faint smile. It feels like I've fallen right into your trap, kid. Fine. I'll say it. I truly am not the spirit of the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. Like the countless remnant souls within it, I too was someone slain by this blade, my soul bound inside it. My cultivation, however, was not low. My soul was not completely assimilated by the endless resentment within the blade. Instead, I penetrated some of the mysteries of the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber, survived, and became what I am now, Shi Qinghe said. He first glared at Hanli, then his tone grew somewhat complicated. Oh? Then before you were slain, what was your identity? And what level was your cultivation? Hanli asked, surprise flashing through his eyes. After reaching the 5th level of the spirit refinement art, the power of his soul was no weaker than the later stage Tai beings such as Su Lu or Fairy Bai Shi. Yet even he had been unable to withstand the endless resentment inside the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. For Shi Qinghe, not only to endure it, but also to gain control over the blade was something that could not be ignored. Youngster, don't push your luck. Do you expect me to recount my background, my life story, my cultivation methods in every last detail? I may have need of your help, but that does not mean I have no limits, Shi Qinghe snapped, anger flashing over his face. Please forgive me, senior. I misspoke. You need only answer the 3 questions I asked before, Hanli said at once, clasping his hands apologetically. It was simply in his nature to want to understand the other party's background as fully as possible. But clearly, Shi Qinghe was not someone to be taken lightly. Shi Qinghe gave a cold snort. Only after some time did he finally say, Before I was slain, I was the domain lord of one region of the Grey Realm. The one who killed me was Yin Changquan, and he is the domain lord of the 9 nether domain. The words came out cold and curt. Once he finished, he shut his eyes as though wholly unwilling to say another word. Hanli's expression shifted several times after hearing those 3 answers. Only after quite a while did he recover his calm. Very well. The first condition is met. My second condition is that I place certain restrictions inside you, as a means of restraint, Hanli said at last. Shi Qinghe opened his eyes and looked at Hanli. Hanli returned the gaze calmly. Agreed, Shi Qinghe said at once, so readily that he did not even ask what kind of restriction Hanli intended to place. Then excuse me. A flicker of surprise passed through Hanli's eyes, but it soon vanished. He cupped his hands, then stepped forward a few paces. Shi Qinghe's phantom body drifted away from the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber, and came to Hanli's side. Hanli began chanting under his breath. Then he suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence while rapidly forming seals with both hands. The blood essence immediately rippled like a living thing, quickly turning into countless twisted and sinister blood-red runes. At the same time, crystalline light flickered between Hanli's brows. Several shimmering threads shot out and merged with those blood-red runes, which then all sank into Shi Qinghe's forehead. A flash of bloodlight passed through Shi Qinghe's body. Blood-red lines appeared over his form, spreading outward from his forehead at a visible speed until they covered him from head to toe. But the blood-red lines only flickered a few times before sinking away and vanishing, leaving everything as it had been, as though nothing had happened at all. "It is done," Hanli said calmly, lowering his hands. The restriction he had just set was a special secret art designed specifically for soul-like beings, rather similar to the restraint he had once placed on devilish light. This time, however, he had used his own blood essence as the catalyst, binding himself and Shurqingho together to a certain extent. That way, if the other side ever harbored the intention to harm him, Hanli would know at once. At the same time, he himself would likewise be unable to harm Shurqingho without cause. It was, in a sense, a rather fair restriction. The reason Hanli had used it was naturally because Shurqingho had agreed far too easily. "I have fulfilled both your conditions. Then our earlier deal is settled, yes?" Shurqingho asked, looking deeply at Hanli. "Yes," Hanli said without further hesitation, nodding. "Good." A smile appeared on Shurqingho's face once more. His figure swayed and turned into a beam of white light that sank into the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. At once, brilliant white light erupted from the saber. Amid a series of sharp hissing sounds, hair-thin white strands rose from the blade and shot toward both sides. The black radiance of the great black heavenly Tao divine seal sensed the threat and immediately flared as well. Billowing masses of black cloud-like glow rolled out to meet the white strands. The two forces collided fiercely. Black and white light flashed wildly, and peals of thunderous explosions rang out in rapid succession. For a moment, neither side could overpower the other. Then, from within the blade, there came the sound of a murmured incantation. The heavenly fox blood-transforming saber trembled violently, and streams of liquid-like white light poured from it. Like tentacles, they slid along the blade and fused into the stone platform below. The black array lines on the platform were rapidly dyed white. The black radiance emitted by the great black heavenly Tao divine seal quickly dimmed, and the black clouds also became thin at once. They were soon pierced by the fine white strands and then dispersed like spring snow under the sun. The black restriction light immediately receded to either side, and before long a passage more than one body wide appeared, stretching from the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber all the way to the outer edge of the platform. But all the white light on the saber was being used to break the seal, leaving it extremely thin. In contrast, waves of black mist began to rise from the blade, accompanied by pitiful screams like wailing ghosts and shrieking foxes. "Quick! Pull out the blood-transforming saber. I can't restrain the great black heavenly Tao divine seal for long." Shurqingho's urgent voice rang out. At that moment, Hanli's whole body was wreathed in dazzling golden light. The light coiled around every part of him, almost tangible, as though forming a suit of golden armor. At this point there was no room for hesitation. The moment he heard Shurqingho's warning, his body transformed into a streak of golden light that shot through the passage on the platform. In a flash he appeared beside the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber, spread his 5 fingers and seized the hilt. Boom! The black light on the saber exploded outward, forming a dense black ring. Hanli's right arm and half his body were swallowed by the black halo. A terrifyingly powerful evil resentment rushed up his arm and charged violently toward his mind. But his entire body was already enveloped in the power of the law of time. The moment the evil resentment entered his body, it was subjected to tremendous suppression. Though it could still advance, it did so at a speed 10 times slower than before. The evil resentment had not yet reached his mind, but it was so powerful that Hanli still felt the world spin inside his head, as though something within him were churning violently. He forced himself not to pay attention to it. All the immortal spiritual power in his body was activated at once, golden light leaping over him like flames, and he heaved with the arm gripping the hilt. An immense force erupted from his arm, and its aftershock sent ripples spreading through the nearby void. Rumble! The entire stone platform shook violently, and the black light emitted by the great black heavenly Tao divine seal wavered sharply. The spot where the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber connected to the platform trembled with a humming vibration, but the blade did not come free. Seeing this, Hanli immediately formed a seal with one hand. Multicolored radiance burst from his body, and one manifestation after another appeared around him. True dragon, rainbow phoenix, giant ape and several more. The manifestation circled his body once, then plunged into him and merged with him. With an explosive roar, purple gold light blazed from Han Li's body. His frame suddenly expanded several times over, transforming him into the purple gold demonic god of the Nirvana sacred body. An aura more than twice as powerful as before burst forth from him, causing the entire pool to tremble violently. Ha! The purple gold demonic god widened his eyes and let out a low shout. His thick purple gold arm bulged, and he pulled with all his might. A violent cracking sound exploded outward. The connection between the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber and the stone platform shattered, blasting open a great hole. The purple gold demonic god flew backward with the saber in hand and slammed heavily into the wall of the pool. The moment the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber was pulled free, the black light of the formation on the stone platform quickly dimmed. After flickering a few times, it vanished completely. Cracks spread over the stone platform in all directions, and within moments it shattered into a pile of rubble. A ball of white light flew from the broken platform and flashed back into the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber. White light immediately spread across the blade and quickly suppressed the black radiance once again. Ha ha ha! How many tens of thousands of years has it been? How many tens of thousands of years have I been trapped in this damned place? At last, I'm free. Shi Qinghe's figure emerged from the white light, his face wild with ecstasy as he threw back his head and laughed madly. Yin Chengquan, you used treachery and schemes to reduce me to this state. This hatred, this grudge. I, Shi Qinghe, will never forget it. I will claim it all back from you, every last bit. His face twisted with fury as he roared at the sky. The light around the purple gold demonic god flickered, and the huge body rapidly shrank. In a moment, Han Li's original appearance returned. He merely watched Shi Qinghe in silence without interrupting. Ah! Shi Qinghe let out another skyward roar, one filled with the oppression and fury of countless years. After that cry, he slowly exhaled, and only then did the expression on his face gradually calm. My apologies. I was repressed for too long. Now that I've suddenly broken free, my emotions got the better of me. I've made a fool of myself, Shi Qinghe said, turning to Han Li with a smile. I wouldn't dare think that. I can understand that kind of feeling, Han Li replied, waving a hand. Now that the blade has been drawn, we should leave this place as soon as possible. The commotion just now was considerable. It would be troublesome if anyone discovered us, Shi Qinghe said after taking another long breath. I was thinking the same thing, Han Li said with a nod. He then lowered his gaze to the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber in his hand. Although Shi Qinghe had suppressed the blade's baleful resentment, it still gave off waves of formidable aura. Han Li's thoughts turned as he considered how he might seal and suppress the saber. Kid Li, those black crystals are Longhuan black jade. They are extremely effective at concealing baleful and resentful energy. Use them to forge a sheath and you'll be able to hide most of the heavenly fox blood-transforming saber's aura, Shi Qinghe said, seeming to see right through Han Li's thoughts.